Hi, good afternoon, and welcome. On behalf of the Sai University and the newly instituted School of Media, I'm Dr. Uma Vangal, who is very happy to welcome all of you to the first of the web talks hosted by the School of Media at Sai University. We often hear people talking about communication, especially in these days of Insta feeds and everyday videos posted by social media influencers who will tell you here are tips and tricks and tools for being effective communicators. They'll tell you being confident, being concise, being cool, being calm, a lot of tips that they'll give you on how to be good communication specialists. But today, I'm sure you're going to be hearing a different take on it from someone who is multifaceted. And I know her as a poet, but she wears many, many hats. She's a bilingual poet, a rehabilitation psychologist, an educational consultant for learning and development, a corporate consultant, and a counselor for career excellence, personal effectiveness, and family disquiet. She strongly believes that literature shapes and influences personality. Therefore, she uses poetry, songs, quotes, and stories for counseling and training. She writes herself very fluently, prose, poetry, and short stories. She's here with us today. Welcome, Padmini ma'am. We are extremely happy to be hosting this first web talk with you as our resource person. She's here with us today to speak.
Thank you very much. I am not a pulpit speaker. I am not used to making speeches. I am a counselor, trainer, and so I'm used to interacting with people and developing the themes. So this is a new experience for me, and thank you, Uma, for giving me this opportunity. If any of you all feel I'm being irrelevant or I'm wasting your time, just put up your hand. Uma will ask you to speak. You can just ask me to shut up, and I'll be happy to do that. So don't worry, I don't want to waste your time. But ethics is a bad word. I think a lot of people think so, right? And it's difficult to speak of such a nice, wonderful bad word. And that's what is important, because whether we are communicating or doing any job, being ethical is very important. So what is ethics? Let us first start off with, how do we understand this word ethics? It's a second word. Sure. Right. No, I think it's second.
From current slide and keep going down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you all see that?
I think you should make it slideshow so we can see the full screen. Yeah.
Okay. Can you make it? Sorry for that pause. But what do you understand by ethics? No, it says impact of communication at all levels, the intrapersonal, interpersonal, team and goal levels, social situations and macro levels. Now let's look at each of these. Intrapersonal communication is very important. What you tell yourself, what you are convinced about it, because what is inside only what comes out. Right? At the interpersonal level, it could be one-on-one, it could be into a small group, it could be into a large group, it could be two ways, it could be multiple ways, as in a discussion, or it could be one way, as in the media. Okay? Social situations and macro level communication are a different ball game altogether. where we don't even know who's on the other side. I think more or less I am in that situation now. Now, ethics. If you look at ethics, can we move on to an interactive mode now, please?
Yes, ma'am.
I think what we will do is go ahead interactive and maybe run through the presentation later. Can you all see me and the board? Can you all see me and the board?
Yes, we can.
You can. Okay. Now, tell me, what do you understand by the word ethics? It means different things to different people. What do you understand by ethics? Anyone?
Participants, if you wish to step in or you want
You
to
can
add.
either raise your hand or enter in the chat box, so then I can read it out to ma'am if you so choose.
Because unless we are on the same page as what we understand by the word ethics and empathy, it would not make sense to see how they are related to making your communication effective. Right? And we are looking in terms of making communication effective. We will look at what effective communication is subsequently. So, what is ethics? No takers?
I don't see any raised hands. I'm checking the chat box. I haven't seen. One second. There is one person who has answered. The chat is disabled and there's no unmute option visible. Should we respond here, madam?
Okay.
Yes. Give me 1 second. Somebody is trying to answer.
Remember, ethics is an intrapersonal aspect that gets reflected at all levels. Whatever you do, your ethics are driving you. So we must understand what ethics means. Yeah, somebody has said something?
No. Nelai, they're saying that their chat
Yes,
option
ma'am.
is
So they can chat. They can put their
raise their
things in
hands.
Q&A section. Yes, they can
Yeah,
chat
so
in Q&A
somebody
section.
Okay,
is asking me, but they're
okay,
not
that's
able
better.
to.
Ethics are the principles. There are three aspects to it. Accepted by society. Not always, but part of society. Ethics are personal, but they are promoted by society. They are moral standards and values. Now, we have to understand what each of these is.
Padmini ma'am, just so you know, Varshini has answered that it is our moral perspective.
Yes, it is your moral perspective. It is the value that guides you. Now, if that is so, how does it guide us? Can you give an example of what is being ethical? Can you give an example of what is being ethical? You have to go through ethical issues every time, right? Ensuring your decisions are aligned with the obligations to the public and resolving moral issues and justifying your decisions, right? So, what are some of the examples of ethics? If you are an ethical person, what will you be? Yeah,
Interestingly, again, Varshini has replied and she says it is knowing what is right and what is wrong.
correct. Right and wrong. What is right? What is wrong? Right. Now, that itself is a very, very personal question. Is there something like universal right, universal wrong?
So there's another interesting answer.
Yeah.
Deidar says it is doing what is right, what is fair, and what is responsible.
What is
Fair and what is
fair?
responsible.
Right, fair and responsible. Be fair to whom? Fair to whom? It has to be fair to all the stakeholders. Okay? Now, very often what happens, what is fair to one is not fair to the other. It is, let us say, a very simple thing, controversial, but I'm taking the courage to be controversial. Say, let us say simple things like reservation. Is it ethical? Is it fair? Is it right? Now, there are several decades of uh, debate that goes on in this, because it is fair to a set of people. It is right. It is only fair that people who have been denied generations of equal opportunity is given a head-on start. But it's unfair to punish me for the mistakes of my grandparents. My great-grandfather or my great-grandfather's grandfather was unfair to a set of people. Now that set of people cannot take it out on me. That's unfair to me. So what is fair? What is unfair? What is right? What is not right? What is responsible? What is not responsible? So when you ask these questions, they become very, very difficult to answer. Very difficult to answer. And each one has to take their own stand. And that is where your personal ethics come. Okay. Now, when you have to go on when you have to communicate, let us say you have to tell people that from now on you must wear a helmet when you are driving. Now it's your job to communicate this. Right? Now the first thing is integrity. Do I believe in it? Integrity. The first important thing is I should believe in it. I should think it is right. If I think it is not right, then telling you that it's right because it's my job, right, is also ethical. I don't believe in it, but I'm paid to do it. That's my job, so I do it. Right? Now that is called normative ethics. We will talk about the type of ethics. Okay. So ethics is something that is right, fair, and has a lot of integrity. Now, what is right at one point in time is not right at another point in time. Okay. So, there are what are called classical ethics, which are the Yama Niyamas. You know the Yama Niyamas? Satya, Asteya. Okay. Let's look at it. Can you see the side of the board? Truth. Truth. Again, truth is a very evasive word. Right? The letter of the law versus the spirit of the law, you say. But by and large, we understand what is true, what is not true. And the other thing probably is you're looking in terms of non-stealing. Non-stealing. You cannot take another person's what belongs to another person. Non-greedy. Not being greedy. Okay. Then what are the other things? Basically, you're looking at that which is comfortable for social living. Why should I be truthful? Because if I am not truthful and everybody else is not truthful, then we can't trust anybody else. There can be no social living. If I am greedy and you are also greedy, there's going to be a tug of war. There is enough for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed. So, when you're talking of ethics, we are talking of being truthful, non-stealing, not being greedy, we are also looking at things like being fair, responsible. Can we see that side of the screen? Or this side of the screen. What does it say, right? Next one. Okay.
Yeah, we are seeing your PPT, ma'am, the why of ethics.
Yeah, you're seeing the why of ethics. Okay. So, communication ethics. It relates to the safety of all concerned and the environment, protecting public safety. Right? So when you say communication, how does it relate to safety? If you give a wrong information, if you give, uh, let us say, distorted information, then you are jeopardizing the safety. Remaining faithful and trustworthy, acting with integrity, maintaining confidentiality. Maintaining confidentiality is very, very important in public communication. So when you're looking at ethics, what you are really looking at is my idea of what is right and fair to all the. Can I get myself on screen? Can I? What is right and fair to all stakeholders, whom I can trust, who can trust me. Where I'm looking at what is right for now and for a long and in the long term period also. Okay. Now this is broadly what we are looking at ethics. Although there is much more to it, I would probably send you my PPT. You can look at it. We are probably running out of time also. The three branches of ethics. Now, before we move on to empathy, let's briefly look at the types of ethics. One is called normative ethics, that is, dealing with the moral standards, gives the norms. They are not rules, they are not laws, but they are the norms of behavior. The other is the meta ethics. Meta ethics is the ethics about ethics. So I'm giving you a norm, but why is this norm right? What is wrong with this norm? And applied ethics, the way you present yourself. Okay. Now, when you talk of normative ethics, you're talking of what should be, right? And that can then again be seen as three different things. Utilitarian, that is the consequences of your action, right? For instance, let us say I'm I'm telling you or I'm communicating that the current educational system does not promote uh, proper education. A lot of people make it a kind of a fashion to say this, right? I am a die-hard pedagogist, and I think this is a lethal statement that people are making, right? Because the consequences of this is I'm going to learn not to respect the education given to me. I'm going to start off being dissatisfied. I'm going to say I'm not given what needs to be given. That's why I'm not doing my best. Right? So even if you're right, even if you believe in it, you should understand the consequences it has to the listener. And that sensitivity, if it is not there, see, there are two things called the intended communication and the incidental communication. Intended communication is what you want to say, what you are saying. Incidental communication is what happens even without your knowing. I really don't know what is the incidental communication I'm giving you all, because I don't have any non-verbal cues or body language or facial expressions to go by. So these are things which give you the incidental communication. Okay, and if the incidental communication is louder than the intentional communication. So when you say today's education is highly wanting in its nature, the incidental communication you are giving is don't respect your teacher, don't respect your educational system. You have nothing to gain from it. Right? And therefore, you should be very careful when you make such statements. Deontological ethics. Deontological ethics is adherence to rules and duties. One is consequential in terms of what the incidental communication is. The other is deontological, which is rule bound. Right? You have come late. You are supposed to come at 9 o'clock. You have come at 9:05. I'm giving you half a day off. I'm giving you half a day absent. That's the rule. 3 days if you come late in a month, then you lose one casual leave. That's the rule of the organization. I go by the rule. But it so happens that in this particular case, this particular person has a medical condition at home and needs to come half an hour late. Are you going to make an exception? And if I start making an exception, everybody will give reasons. Everybody has their reasons. Right? You are late, your bus comes. No, I had a particular situation where the bus had a long distance travel. And let us say the person had to be there at 9 o'clock. He could either be there at 8:30 or 9:30. That was the bus timings. So should I come half an hour late or half an hour early every day? And if I come half an hour early, can I leave half an hour early? Or should I change my place of residence? Now, to the manager, it becomes a very ethical question. What do I advise this particular person to do? Right? And if I give you permission, yeah, for me also it's like that. You know, my 9 o'clock bus is very crowded. I will also cut down. The 9:30 bus is better. No, 9 o'clock, the road is very crowded. Now, everybody has reasons. And then there can be no discipline. So, going by the rule is also being ethical, because we have to follow some rule. If the rule is wrong, change the rule. Virtue ethics focuses on character and cultivating moral value. What I think Varshini had to say. Right? That is the virtue ethics. Now, let us say, let's move on.
I think if we can now actually then give a little gap for people to ask any questions on ethics before you move on to empathy.
No, just another. Let us finish ethics.
Yeah.
Now, virtue ethics. Meta-ethics and applied ethics. Right? Now, let us take a small example before we move on. Right? See, in a cricket match, the referee, right, has to deal with normative ethics. He is to say whether this is right or this is wrong as per the given rules, as per the applied, accepted ways of playing. Whereas meta-ethics is like the commentator or people who are saying that, okay, from now onwards, we will not have 5-day cricket, we'll have we'll have only 1 day. Right? Because of these reasons. So the commentator or the organizers deal with meta-ethics. Right? they are not stuck to the norms, whereas the umpire has to restrict himself to the norms, whereas the player has to work with applied ethics. You can't hit the other person. Right? You can't show your anger or your aggressiveness on the field. Right? So these are applied ethics. So there are times, normally, when you are on the job, you have to have applied ethics. That is, agreed upon norms and systems of being right and fair. But when you are planning to do something, you move on to meta-ethics and think in terms of, is this the right thing to say? Is this necessary? Or should we change the format? Is this format okay? And if it is not okay, then we have to deal with normative ethics. So understand, when you are communicating, are you communicating from the standpoint of a normative ethics, or a meta ethics, or an applied ethics? And if you are an umpire and you try to communicate from the normative, from the applied ethics or from the meta ethics, you will not be doing your job. If you are a player, you have to go only by the applied ethics. You cannot go beyond the applied ethics while you are doing something. Okay? At this point, can we have some questions? Or some thoughts? Need not be questions, it can be your thoughts also. Anybody?
Yes, Jyoti, go ahead and unmute and speak, please. I can see your hand is raised. Nella, I'm not able to unmute. I think she has to unmute.
While she's unmuting, other people also can think of raising your hand. Yes, Jyoti? Unmute. Which is not able to. Somebody else, while Jyoti is trying to unmute, you can also type in your thoughts.
Nella, I can unmute.
Can you
Jyoti,
unmute?
why don't you type the box? Question answer, yeah.
Nellai, can you unmute Jyoti? This is the problem with the technology. Because technology is a wonderful thing, no doubt, but perhaps we need to learn to use it better. During the pandemic, we were using it quite comfortably, but after the last 2-3 years, I got out of the habit of using it. And now I'm not able to get back that speed of using it. Yes, Nellai sir, have you been able to unmute Jyoti? No.
Nellai?
Yeah, ma'am. We gave permission to.
No,
I'm not able to unmute her, and she's not able to type. I don't know. I've asked her to type. Let me just check quickly.
Anybody else? Any other?
Okay, Varshini has. Yes, Varshini says, can we say that it is very important to understand the different perspectives of the situation so we can come to the conclusion what is morally right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you've said it in one sentence what I was trying to say in 5 minutes. Right? Very good, Varshini. Thank you. So different perspectives.
Jyoti, why don't you go ahead and type?
Okay. Okay, while Jyoti is starting, let's move on to what do you understand by empathy? A very, very much used term these days. Yeah. Anybody else can tell me what empathy means? Have you heard the word empathy? EQ. See,
I'm waiting. I don't see any answers yet.
yeah.
Maybe
See,
you can go ahead and start.
ability to emotionally understand what the other person feels, see things from their point of view. I'm reading out a definition which I'm not going to agree with, okay? But this is the given definition, so I'm reading it, popular definition. Right? Empathy is the ability to emotionally understand what the other person feels, see things from their point of view, imagine yourself in their place. Essentially, it is relating cognitively to another person's emotions and responding both at the emotional and cognitive levels. Right? Now, let's move on. No, I think the previous, yeah, the previous. Now, here, next one, here. Before that, here. Now, imagine yourself in their place. Now, this is something which is not empathy. Right? It is more self gratifying. You know this little story which I'm sure you would have all heard it sometimes about the monkey which got highly empathetic. You know, the monkey was listening to one of these speeches and was terribly thrilled and was wondering, my goodness, what a lovely thing this empathy is. And I've spent 10 years of my life not knowing what it is. And this is bad. And from this minute onwards, I'm going to be very empathetic. And what is empathy? Putting yourself in the other person's shoes and feeling what you would feel if you were there. Oh, that's wonderful. So it went and sat on top of its tree and it started raining. And in the pond below, some little fish were jumping up and down. And this monkey thought, oh God, how sad for those little fish. It's raining, it's cold. And if I were that fish, what would I want to do? Now I must be very empathetic. So he picked up all the little fish, and put it safely in the leaves of the tree. Is that what you would call empathy? Yeah. Empathy is not doing what you would do in that situation. Rather, can we go to the next thing? Essentially, it is relating cognitively to another person's emotion. Understanding, yes, the monkey is enjoying itself. I'm sorry, the fish are enjoying themselves because they are fish and not monkeys. Right? And responding both at the emotional and cognitive level. Now, missing any one, either the cognitive aspect or the emotional aspect, will you will miss the bus, will dilute the empathy. So very often, the proponents of empathy put more emphasis at the feeling level, at the emotion level, and less emphasis on the thinking, logical level. But functional empathy has to be logical. What do I say? Maybe sometimes a little harsh also. Because if you really understand that the other person is suffering, then to help them to come out of that suffering, there's no point saying, oh, I'm so sorry, I feel very bad about it, I understand what you're going through. No. Maybe at that time you have to sort of grip yourself and say that, look, yes, you're going through a tough time, understandable. But what do we do now? How do we move forward? Okay. So taking charge is very, very important. So empathy is not putting yourself into another person's shoes, but relating cognitively and emotionally to the other person's frame of mind. Okay. Now, ethics, how much more time do we have?
It's about 3:11, which means I think it's about time to wrap up in about 3 minutes so that we have some time for question and answers.
Yeah, but your question and answer doesn't seem to be hitting off. Right?
Well, they seem to have some trouble typing in, but now the question answer box is open, so I'm waiting. They will
Okay,
probably.
okay.
Yes, it's open.
So ethics at the personal level and empathy at the interpersonal level ensures strong communication. If you're not ethical, your what do you say? Your intention, your character will be seen through. Like they say, you can cheat everybody for a while,
Some of it.
some people for some while, but nobody for all the while. So when you're not ethical, short-term gains might come through, but in the long run, you will lose. At the interpersonal level, ethics, right, ensures that a feel-good, first of all, a feel-good factor in yourself, a sense of self-respect, a sense of validating oneself. Now, these are the unseen roots of communication. Being validated, having a strong sense of self respect, an integrity that believes in what you say, and the background for this is your guiding ethics. Right? It's essential for creating a positive, productive work environment as well as a comfortable life space. So, not only your work environment, your life space. Because if you're not very ethical, maybe in the work environment you can sail through for a little while, for some time, it's possible. But your life space becomes messed up.
Mm-hmm.
And it fosters trust and acceptability. In the long run, people will learn to trust you and accept you if your communication is based on a certain personal ethics. Ethical dilemmas, business or even otherwise, often face ethical dilemmas requiring tough decisions that balances competing interests and values. And that is the problem with ethics. There are these competing interests and values. Right? So I need to take time off for my family holiday. I need to not take time off for my work requirements. How do I balance? Right? It would be very unethical to tell my family, after all, I'm working for you, and whatever I earn is for you, so don't expect me to give anything more than my money. And it would be very unfair to your work environment to say, look, I have a family to take care, I have to pander to their needs, so don't ask me to, to put you as a priority over my family. So when competing priorities come, how do you balance? And this is not something you can decide on the fly when the situation comes. This is something you need to develop as your value, as your as the way of life with you. So in this situation, I will act like this. That situation may or may not come. Right? Even if competent to handle, if not sensitively conveyed, and that's where the empathy comes. Right? I can handle I have made a decision that at this point of time, my job requirements is all important and I cannot join my family for this important event. Now, how do I say it? In such a way that people can understand me, empathize with me, rather than blame me. And that's what communication is all about. To be able to balance the ethics, the empathy, the situation, the right and wrong of it. And so get guided by ethics, fueled by empathy. Then your communication becomes credible and impactful. You can have very impressive communication without ethics or empathy, but it will not hold the impact. If you want to move from impression to impact, then at the intrapersonal level, you should be ethical, and at the interpersonal level, you should learn to be empathetic. Right? Ethical and empathetic communication ensures impressive, influential, and impactful communication. It's only an ethical person you will understand who's influential. Check with all the people who have influenced you. Look at the people whom you look up to, and you will find there is a strong ethical background with them. So get aligned with ethics, come aligned with empathy, and make your communication effective. Hari.
Thank you very much, Padmini Janardhanan ma'am. You've made us think beyond the binary of just right and wrong. Several words that have today brought in some understanding of the types of ethics. You've mentioned normative, applied, utilitarian, meta, ontological rules, classical ethics, just so many phrases that you've brought in, virtue ethics, and also the dangers of misinformation, disinformation, not maintaining integrity, confidentiality, many things for us to think about. This is just a sample of some of the kinds of inputs students who sign up in the School of Media for a BA Honours in Media Studies can look forward to. So that is something that we wanted to underline, and which is why we had brought in a multifaceted resource person, because communication and media studies is not just about learning rules and how to write and how to talk, but it is also about how to become better communicators, more effective communicators, and make you think and find your voice and your inner ethics. So I'm so happy we had Mrs. Padmini Janardhanan kindling some thought in us. So the floor is now open for questions. Please type in the question box and I will convey them to Padmini ma'am, and she will attempt to answer some of your questions. I'm already expecting Varshini and Deedar to ask some questions. In the meanwhile, others, get ready with your questions. Go ahead and type in the question option that you have, and we will try to answer them. Or in the meanwhile, if some of you want to raise your hands, and so we know who has a question, we can then go ahead and try to find a way to answer your question.
Yeah, I think Varshini has raised her hand. Varshini, you can, you can talk now.
Varshini, can you just type or talk now? Varshini, you need to unmute. Yes, go ahead, Varshini. Can you speak up? We're not able to hear you.
Yeah, I think that's a no. So
maybe you can just type, Varshini.
Yeah, you can type in the Q&A section. We'll read it out for you.
Anybody else who can unmute and talk?
Yeah. You can just raise your hands and we'll allow you to talk. Balaji, Chitra, Deedar, Deepthi.
Deedar, I thought you would have some questions because you had an answer to the ethics and empathy both. So I wanted to hear from Varshini and Deedar.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
Yes, I know there's a question. So yes. Deedar says, being ethical, doesn't it depend on the person and timing? Only if the person has a strong mindset to accept what we are saying, it would work. If not, wouldn't we be called arrogant?
Are you strong enough to be arrogant? Are you strong enough to be called arrogant when you are not arrogant? That's a question you need to ask. You see, the mindset of the other person, that's where your empathy comes. Being ethical without being empathetic will lead to what you are saying. You're not prepared to listen to what I'm saying. And what I'm saying sounds all tall and idealistic rubbish. And therefore you think that this has to be discounted. Why? Because I have not taken the care to empathize with you and understand you from your point of view. See? And this is a very, very, uh, very difficult thing to do, because we each have our pockets of exposure with which we grow. I'll tell you one incident. I'll just take a minute. Some of these TV shows are abhorring to me. I just can't tolerate even the promos. Right? And I find they are crass. And I had a lot of contempt for such programs. I was well. What was totally abhorring and disgusting to me was something that made their life, that made the day come alive, that made their week come alive. Right? And I found myself very unempathetic in passing judgment about such programs. Okay? Now we have to understand for whom it is meant. It was not meant for me. I had no business to see it and pass judgment on it. Right? And even the promos were something which I couldn't take. But there are others. Now, if I have to tell her, it doesn't stop there. One of the daughters, she was a very ambitious person. She must be somewhere, and she used to come at 11 o'clock at night. Remind you, after all her work, she was working in a mall, and then learn English from me, so that she wanted to have a promotion. Now, I wanted to tell her to move up in her taste. Now, how do I make her watch another program, right? Which, well, she is enjoying this program so much, and that's the limit of her perception. So I had to include it as part of my teaching, of part of my exercises, and then show some programs and ask her questions on that program to answer, and slowly got her inducted to seeing other programs. Now, if this effort cannot be taken, if there's no time to take this effort, and I simply tell her, look, as long as you're stuck with this kind of a crass level, you'll never move up. Obviously, she's going to think that I am, and she's
arrogant.
going to reject me. So while what you're saying is right, 100% right, you must also understand that the effort that we take to bring in an empathetical communication to promote a certain ethics is very important. I'll take one more minute to, we spoke about the reservation. Right.
Ma'am, 1 minute. Actually, Deedar came up with a little clarification, a sub-question, where he said by mistake he had typed ethical instead of empathetic. So it's very interesting because in your answer, you anyway veered towards the effort you need to make to be empathetic. So it was quite interesting because Deedar had just sent the clarification and you answered it. But go ahead with your next example.
The next thing is, we were talking about reservation and pre-generation, fourth generation. And you know the politics behind it. It's not our business to go into it now. But one of my greatest success in life, right, which I am very glad to share, I used to have this youth forum in the guest house where I used to go for corporate training. So evening, children used to come around 7:30 and be with me till 9:30, 10, and we used to have a lot of fun. And one of those boys wanted to do his MBBS. And he refused to get his caste certificate and go for reservation. His father, who was in that organization, came to me and complained to me, saying that, look, he's doing this. So I told him, be happy. And when I asked the boy, he said, Amma, if I take reservation, I can't be your son, no? I want to be your son, so I will not take reservation. He got admission. He got admission. And after he got admission, I told him, please take that certificate and get your fees waived. Because this is not for you, it is for your father. Right? You have proven yourself. But don't ask your father, don't punish your father for you, for your ethics. He had a strong ethical ground in saying that third generation, I will not take reservation. It was only meant for 50 years, 70 years. Time is over. Right. Good, I appreciated it. But there's no point punishing his father for it. So I made him take that certificate and take that concession. He finished his PG also, and he's doing extremely well now. Still doing around 8 to 10 days of rural work every year, every month, and says, "This is my base. This is my background." So sometimes,
and I think it's also his integrity, right, to stick to those ethics.
yes, that's a line.
So Varshini has come up with a question.
Yeah.
So she says, ma'am, I understand that when trying to be ethical, you must face the consequences. I understand the different perspectives and understand what decision I should make that is ethically right. But I'm unable Ma'am, I understand that when trying to be ethical, you must face the consequences.
Yes.
I understand different perspectives and I understand what decision I should make that is ethically right. But I'm unable to make that decision without faltering. How can I be firm and apply it when I'm afraid to face the consequences?
How can I be
If you
firm?
just hang on,
Yeah.
how can I be firm when I'm afraid to face the consequences? She's also written 2 other statements because she was trying to type in earlier. Because we very much obviously need to be firm in our work environments. Right? So how can I be firm when I'm scared to face the consequences is one question. And then she follows it up with, can this only be accomplished with experience?
Yes, experience helps. But experience comes with experience. Right? You can't start off with experience and say, unless I have experience, I won't do anything. Then you won't do anything at all. Right? So let's leave the experience. And as experience comes, definitely it will add on. But how can I be firm? Now, this is where we moved on to the basic EMS. Asteya, aparigraha, non-greedy. If I am willing to give up certain things for certain things. See, values is a matter of priority. Okay? And you have enough time in this world, enough resources for your priorities. The point is I'm not able to be firm because I cannot give up what I need to give up to get this. And that is where we are lacking. Now that comes, it's a big question, so I will make it very short. It comes with 2 things. When I can accept myself and say, even if you don't accept me, this is what I'm going to take. So when the need approval, need acceptance is not so loud, then you can be firm. The second thing is, I'm not sure whether my job is important or family is important. Right? Now there you have to clarify. That's why I said without cognitive clarity, things don't come. So you have to clearly prioritize, and when you prioritize, firmness will come because you will firmly choose what is a higher priority for you and whatever the consequences thereof. You see, my grandmother used to say, if you talk, you might say something wrong and lose. If you don't talk, you might lose the opportunity and lose. Either way, there's a chance of losing. So better talk and lose. At least you've said what you want to say. Right?
Ma'am, I would request you to say that little haiku you mentioned about ethics, and then we'll. You remember you had a little haiku you had written on ethics?
I don't remember.
At Odyssey, you said it. It was on the spot. You had said. You said something about doing right.
I don't remember. I really don't remember. I don't have it here.
While you take time to remember that, I'm going to just say a few words about the Sai University School of Media. And we are offering 3 courses: BA Media Studies, BSc Visual Communication, and BSc in Film and Technology. All of these are 4-year honors courses. The film course alone has multiple exit options. You can leave at the end of 1 year and get a certificate. At the end of the 2nd year, get a diploma. At the end of the 3rd year, get a degree. And if you stay on for 4 years, you get a BSc honors in film and TV. This kind of helps you to also immediately go abroad for further studies and specialization in media, in communication, in visual communication, in design, in film, in television, all of those areas of media studies. We also have a liberal arts framework, and some of you may be aware of it and some of you may not, but the liberal arts framework also allows you to explore the other 6 schools that are there in Sai University. If you check our website, you will be able to see those kinds of courses that are available to you to have majors and minors in. So in a way, you end up having multiple skill sets that you can build together. Padmini ma'am, there's one more question, and I think we'll end with your answer to this. Deezer says, I'm not sure if this is off topic, but how can one stick to their idea while communicating without causing miscommunication? Like, how could we frame our words without deteriorating from what we need to say?
That's actually a question to Uma and communication experts. I am not a communication expert. I'm a behavioral expert. Okay, and my answer is very simple. I don't have to convince everybody all the time. Right? I have to be convinced myself. Can you read the question again? Sorry. Your haiku is in my mind and I'm not able to recollect it. Yeah.
It says, how can one stick to the idea while communicating without causing miscommunication? How could we frame our words without deteriorating? I think they mean deviating from what we want to say.
Very important thing, because one of the very important things in ethical communication or empathetic communication or business communication or whatever communication is language, vocabulary. And many of us are having a lot of vocabulary deficit. We don't know enough words, right? And therefore, you have to improve your vocabulary and improve your expressional skills. And that is very important for you to say what you want to say without getting digressed. Right? So the famous quotation that comes from the Ramayana, when Kumbhakarnan says Nidratvam instead of Nityatvam. Right? So Saraswati asks him, what do you want? And he wants to say, I want permanence. And instead of Nityatvam, he says Nidratvam, I want sleep. And he slept all the while. So clarity in not only thinking, but clarity in speaking is also very important. And this has nothing to do with ethics. It has to do with communication. Choosing the right word, having the right tone of voice, having the right pronunciation, having the right pauses. And these have to come with, I'm sorry to say this, sometimes being spontaneous is not very, very good. If you can practice it, then it will come out much better. Right? And you will understand, if you want to say something and you really want it to reach across, practice it. Practice it in front of the mirror. See your body language. right? Choose your words, choose your voice control. And if you do all this, then 100% or at least 95% you will reach. Definitely you will reach the audience. This I'm telling you through experience, because sometimes at an earlier age, I was not able to reach out. I was seen as rather brash, impractical, because the way I said it, right, did not gel with the listener. So if you can practice vocabulary skills, expressional skills, sensitivity, bracket empathy, then I think your question is answered. If I remember the IQ and send it across, if you remember, you send it across to me.
Sure. Deidar, I would say, as someone who's been teaching communication for 30 years now, I would say that it is a combination of many things. But if you have clarity in your mind on what you want to convey, and you know what you want to tell your audience, thank you. And we will see you at our next web talk. Thank you so much. I think Deidar is saying thank you, ma'am, for this opportunity, as we learned so many things that I'm sure on using in real life. This session was worth it. And Varshini says, thank you, ma'am. So thank you. We have our answer that we didn't waste anybody's time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.